Folks, we are going to continue. Let me just kind of start this over again. Last week in Lead Gen Labs, Wayne Janner talked about how to build your database, right? He gave you some ideas about how to put people in there. He gave you some ideas about what's going on. And if you haven't seen that YouTube video, or if you weren't here, please go back and watch that. It's on our YouTube channel. All you got to do is search hashtag KW Olathe, and it's the one that has Where Entrepreneurs Thrive as the header. So go back and watch that. It's 50 minutes worth watching. I want to go deeper in there because it's one thing to build a database. It's another thing to use a database. Everybody cool with that? All right. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Chris Lengquist. Let's have some fun here. And I'm going to use this because if you're referencing your millionaire real estate agent, it's page 143. And they've changed that slightly, what I'm going to draw, but I call this the cement mixer. Okay, the cement mixer. And I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be called, but that's what I call it. So let's look at here, right? You've got your contact management database. So here's your database. And this thing kind of goes down like this. Is why I call it the cement mixer. These are actually dashed lines. And over here, you've got your 33 touch and your 12 direct. Now, first of all, who knows what I'm talking about when I say 33 touch or 12 direct? Anybody?
Isn't that like forgetting what it is, but like when you go, like every month you're giving them touches, or you're doing like a pop by or an email or a.
Yeah, so in today's vernacular at Keller Williams, we call these smart plans.
Yes.
Okay, smart plans. And there's different ways you can do a smart plan. Here's what I want you to, if you take nothing else away from today, an effective touch program, which is what a 33 touch is, or a 12 direct is, or an 8x8, which we're going to talk about. An effective touch program is not 33 emails. An effective touch program is not 12 emails. It's a mix of different things. And we're going to talk about that here before we're done. But essentially what I want you to realize is you've got a database, you've started putting it together. And what we want to do is we want to create, for the people that are already in your database, we want to create a 12 direct or a 33 touch program. Now, basically, your haven't mets, let's kind of divide this in two. This is your haven't mets. And this is your have mets. What's the difference?
Well, the haven't met is the ones that, I mean, the haven't mets you don't do the Popeyes for. The have mets.
Okay, so but what's the difference between somebody you haven't met and somebody you have met?
You've met them.
You've met them.
Yeah.
It just seems very simple, right? But it's not that simple, is it? Have you ever had somebody in your database or somebody that you know that you're like, you know them, but you don't really know them? Or here it is. You want to know who's really a haven't met? Anybody in your database that you don't have the relationship to pick up the phone and call. Anybody ever been in your database like that? Like you're going to sit down and you go, okay, I'm going to call 10 people today. And you get to number 6, and number 6 is like, I don't want to call that person. Well, let's be honest. If you don't want to call that person because you're either embarrassed because it's been so long, or because you don't really like them, or you don't really know them, or they haven't met, or they haven't met. Okay. So this is just a little Chris Lengquist-ism. You can take it for what it's worth. Okay. Your have mets are people that you're comfortable with and that you think know them and they know you. Okay. Your haven't mets are people that you haven't met. Like this could be a geo farm. It could be a sphere of, it could be an affinity farm. But these are the people that you know, they know you, and you're trying to build know, like, and trust relationships with. know, like, and trust relationships with. How'd you follow up and go with your open houses, Jason?
I'm doing it today.
Doing it today?
I sent one email yesterday because I didn't get their phone number, but I'm gonna call the numbers today.
Cool, fantastic. So he's starting to get traction at open houses, which is gonna be a Legion Lab thing. So going up, that's kind of cool. So you got your have mets and your haven't mets, and kind of notice how in your database you separate between 12 direct and 33 touch. Let's talk about 12 direct first. A 12 direct could have all sorts of different things in there. There's a agent in this office who for decades has used a newsletter. That newsletter goes out every month. Would that be a 12 direct? Sure it would. He sends it out to his sphere of influence that knows him really well. He also sends it out to the people he's kind of wanting to get to know pretty well. Remember, what I'm teaching you is the model from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. You can alter it slightly, but it's a model. It's not a duplication event, right? So he sends out that newsletter, whether they're a met or a haven't met. Okay. What I did is I created a 12 direct on an affinity farm. We all know what a geographic farm is, right? It's this subdivision or it's that subdivision or it's this zip code. Hey, you voted. Congratulations.
I voted, yes.
I will be doing that on the way home for lunch. So, but an affinity farm is what?
Handpicked, like,
Handpicked.
it's,
Like I discovered pretty quickly that I am not really good at listening to people say that they love the house, they just didn't like the color of the kitchen. Like drove me crazy. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just how I operate. So I like working with investors because it was a non-emotional buy. The numbers worked or the numbers didn't. So what I started doing is creating mailing lists of everybody in Johnson County that I could figure out didn't live at the home they owned. So I call that my investor list. That's an affinity list. Like I decided to start farming possible real estate investors. Make sense? Okay. You could make that, I'm farming doctors. I'm farming NBA basketball players, which in Kansas City, good luck, but it's like one, like every once in a while. But you see what I'm trying to say, right? You could say, I'm gonna farm. Hey, how's the COVID going, Kathy? Don't answer, you're driving. But the affinity farm, you could say, I'm going to farm Kansas City Chiefs. If you can find out their information, right? An affinity farm is just that. But your 12 direct on whatever person you haven't met or whatever, if you're just trying to figure out something, your 12 direct is a mix of media. Like if you want to make 2 or 3 or maybe, and I stress you're stepping over the line probably 4 of your 12 steps of email, you can do that. But you should probably also be doing physical mailings. You should probably also be doing maybe door knocking. On my first geographical farm all the way back in 2002, I didn't have any money. So I actually remember the real estate books, like you can still find those in Walmart sometimes, like the Homes magazines, right? So I would actually sit around at night after doing everything else I could do that day, and I would have a stapler and a set of business cards, and I would have these magazines, and I would staple my business card on the front of all of those magazines. I would pull 205, because that's how big my farm was. And by the way, I called the real estate book company, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll hand them out. I would love that. So he actually brought over like 300 of them. So, but I only needed 205. I would staple my card on the front of them, and then I would put a little flyer because I was cheap. I only had so many copies. Then I would cut the copies in 2. So I had my ad on both sides about why they should choose me as a real estate agent. I would tuck that inside. And then I would walk every other month. I would walk the neighborhood, and it was my deep hope that you wouldn't see me as I walk up to your door and put it in your screen door and everything. And then I would walk off. My biggest fears were when somebody would answer the door as I came up, because now I had to talk to them, which I didn't want to talk to them, although I really did want to talk to them. But anybody relating to what I'm saying right here? But I did it anyway. Okay. So your 12 direct is somehow like it got so in that neighborhood that one time I hired an ice cream truck. And so I walked the neighborhood to tell everybody with a flyer that there was gonna be an ice cream truck at 115th place. And I can't remember the name of the vertical street now because it's 2022, 2023, 2002, 2003. And so, but I hired an ice cream truck and probably about 50 people came out and I bought ice cream after one of my closings. I had enough money to buy ice cream. You can really build some connections through that. Okay? And so really think about how you can do a 12 direct with the people you haven't met or just barely met that will create some sort of bond. Remember, we're trying to get them to know us, like us, and trust us. By the way, here's what's fun. After 2.5 years, I was over 50% of all the sides in that neighborhood. In other words, on 50% of the transactions, I was either the buyer agent or the seller agent. And on the last month before I moved to Kansas City, I was actually walking the neighborhood and some guy opened the door. And he goes, aren't you the guy that rides the bicycle around the neighborhood all the time? I said, yeah. He goes, I didn't know you were a real estate agent. And I was like, well, I am a real estate agent and blah, blah, blah. I was very polite. But in my head, I'm like, I've been handing these out for 2.5 years, man. I've had an ice cream truck. So don't get hung up in your mind about who's paying attention, because when are you going to pay attention to stuff like that?
When you need it.
When you're thinking about moving. For 1.5 years after moving to Kansas City, so Tulsa's that way, right? For 1.5 years, I would get a referral a month that I would send to my Tulsa real estate agent friends. And I would earn referral fees while I was building my business in Kansas City because my geographic farm had done so well. Pretty cool, huh? Now, make this little note in your notes. Your 12 direct, let's just say that 3 of them are emails if you have them, and you may or may not. But you want a lot of mailers, and you definitely want some walk-bys if you're going to do a geographic farm. Okay. For my affinity farm of investors, I would send out analyses of homes that I'd help buy or sell with permission of the owner. Then I would put on there what all the parameters were. And if you're an investor and you're getting something from a real estate agent that shows how the math works, they really attach to that. Because if you ask 100 agents in Kansas City, do you work with real estate investors? How many people are going to say yes? 100. How many people actually know what the math of a real estate investment property are? Like 3. Okay, so they love that I was showing my expertise, which helped them to know me, like me, and trust me. So whatever yours is, it is. But also, it's not really 12 touch, it's 13 touches. Because at the end of the 12 touch, you should have a 13 touch in your smart plan. And what's the 13th touch? Mine only said this, because I was using top producer, decide. And my decision was, do they really belong in a 33 touch? Do they really belong in an 8x8, which we're going to talk about? Okay. Or do they really belong back in the 12, or do I just need to get rid of them? Now I'm going to say something that's heresy to a great many people. If I didn't know you, if I didn't necessarily like you, or I didn't think that you trusted me, I had no problem with just hitting delete. Goodbye. And it bit me in the butt a couple of times, I'm going to admit it. But to me, when my database was X number of people, I wanted to make sure my database was really X number of people. Everybody kind of follow me on that? Okay. So your 12 direct is for mostly your haven't mets. Any thoughts on that or questions on that before we move forward? Give me an aha or something you haven't heard before.
Deleting people out of your database.
It's allowed. So what keeps us from doing that, by the way?
For archive.
Archive, okay. Actually, that's what command makes you do, archive. Yeah.
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, scarcity mindset.
I'm probably on the opposite spectrum. I probably delete a lot, maybe more than I should. Facebook, everything.
To me, as oddly as this sounds, that's an abundance mindset. I'll just go get more people. I'll just go get the people. There's a great book about this. It's called Tribes by Seth Godin. There's some extra credit reading for if you want. All right. So again, we're going to go back to the 8x8 here in a few minutes, but I'm going to hold that in reserve Because I'm going to go now to the 33 touch. A lot of you have a database that you're not actually touching 33 times. If you go to a great many Keller Williams things, or if you listen to the MREA podcast, which by the way, you should be listening to one of those a week minimum. I mean, I am telling you, this is training gold. If you don't like what you're hearing on it that week or whatever, just simply say stop and then go back and listen to the ones you liked. Okay? You're not going to connect with every speaker, but this stuff is gold. I'm telling you. And don't chase shiny pennies, but really focus in on one or two of those podcasts, but you got to listen to all of them to figure out which ones you attach to, right? So, but your 33 touch can also be a 42 touch. It can be a 66 touch. There are unreasonable arguments that it should be 162 touch or whatever. I don't care. You know why?
You're touching them.
Because you're touching them and most of you aren't doing it anyway. Start with 33 touch. If you want to make, Jeff, if you want to make a reasonable argument with me after you've done a 33 touch for a year, that you're getting better results with a 48 touch, you know what my only comment to you is going to be? Great, keep doing it. Right? If you tell me your 33 touch is really only a 28 touch because what you've decided is, okay, great, just keep doing it. Or it's 48 touch because you're going to do it 4 times. Oh, I don't care. Start somewhere. Okay? But your 33 touch, if you go into the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, again, should it all be emails? No, stop it. Stop it. People aren't reading your emails. You can't figure out why some of your emails don't make it to your customers anyway because you now are spam as far as Google is concerned. Or whatever your email preference is. Add value to people. Could you send out recipe cards?
Yes.
You could. I love to cook, but I don't want to be known as the recipe realtor. Right? I wanted to be known as an expert in a certain field. So I concentrated on my field and I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in this. Can I give you an interesting thing? People knew me as an investment real estate agent. That's how they knew me. And about 65 to 70% of my deals were investment properties. But 65 to 70% of my income was from regular people. The investment properties fed into my property management business, which was a whole separate thing. But when I'm selling $30,000 houses, even though I'm charging extra commission on top of that, but then those investors have a kid who needs to buy a home in Overland Park for $280,000, which one do you make more money on? Just a thought. So, but what are you known for? See, because they already knew me, liked me, and trusted me with their investments, were they going to trust me with their kids? Were they going to trust me with their home? Quit looking like every other agent. Stephanie, whatever your talents are, maximize those. Jason, whatever your talents are, maximize those. You could have a great deal of fun. There was the famous story of the guy that was a motorcycle rider. He built an entire affinity database around motorcycle riding. I've sold dozens of houses from this parking lot because what's right behind this building? A bike trail. And the bike trail goes all the way, it terminates down in South Olathe, and it goes all the way over into Missouri and loops back to that one park, that's the golf course. I can't remember what the name of it is. So I would have Saturday morning bike rides here. And there could be sometimes as many as 30 people, of which over half of them I didn't know who they were. But if they would come on a Saturday morning, we didn't have anybody. So somebody would have to use the bathroom. And then somebody would go, hey, I need to use the restroom. Is there like somebody goes, yeah, that guy there has a key to the building. Oh, is he a realtor? Yes. And then on the bike rides, people would go, hey, my daughter's thinking about buying a house. That's cool, man. And then I wouldn't stop the bike ride with like 30 people and go, please give me your information. So, let's recall it. No. I would just create them and then I would put them into my database. Does that make sense? First, I would put them in an 8x8, by the way, but then you do 33 touch. So you're going to create 33 different touches. Maybe it's birthdays. Maybe it's anniversaries of when they bought a house or sold a house with you. Maybe it's all these different things. You know what? You can actually go into the book and on page 146 and 147, It actually breaks it down for you on how you can do that. You can sit there and brainstorm on that. So, but how many touches is 33 touches really?
34,
34. Why is it 34?
because you have the last one.
Yeah, I gave you the answer last time. It's decide. For me, it was decide. Do I still want to spend all that money marketing to them? Let's be honest. Can a database be a little bit messy?
Yes.
Why is it messy?
Well, because you don't wanna take people out.
Absolutely, Josh. What are some more reasons?
Everybody's in a different season.
Everybody's in a different season. I forgot to put Bob in, and now I saw Bob in a closing with somebody else. Ever had that happen? Stephanie's shaking her head, yes, all right. Maybe it turns out we don't like each other. Maybe it turns out that on some of the phone calls, I would just call people as I'm driving down 435 in my little red Mini Cooper, but I never put that information into the database. Right? I mean, there's stuff that you miss. And so here's what's really cool. If you're using Top Producer, or you're using whatever your preferred database is, or you're using Command, on those smart plans, the first thing that happens when you open them up is what? It says, this is what you're supposed to do today. Right? How many of us go, oh, I want to do anything but call those 6 people, send out those 7 letters, those 14 postcards, whatever. Anybody else ever felt that way? If there's somebody you're not wanting to talk to or send anything out to, get them out of your database. That's just personal advice. I'm sure that there are experts that would tell me, Chris, you're an idiot for doing it that way. But I want a database of people that I like. Because I don't come from a scarcity mindset. I come from I want to be this way. So anyway, let's have some fun with this. But how do they go? So now watch how this works. If I've got a 12 direct going on, and I'm geographically farming or affinity farming or whatever it is, and Josh responds to me, because the numbers are still true. If you send out 100 postcards, you're going to get 1/2 of a lead. So do your math. You're going to get 1/2 of a lead on 100 postcards. That has been true for decades. What I found is I was getting 1.5 leads, because I was talking about my subject of expertise and I was sending it to people who were interested in that subject of expertise. Follow me? Okay. So, but even if it's whatever it is, Josh receives that postcard, that letter. Josh was at the door, and Josh identifies himself. He says, Chris, I've never told anybody this, but I actually have a rental property. When I used to live in St. Louis, I just left it there. My brother watches it for me and I make money on that. But I was thinking about buying another one here in Kansas City. Oh, really? So tell me why you're interested in that. And I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm going to find out a little bit about him. But the first thing I do when I get back home to my office is I'm going to take him out of the 12 direct and I'm going to move him into an 8x8. Because now that Josh has reached out to me, I am not going to let that go. I'm going to create an 8x8. Again, how do you do that? Page 146, it's got an exact thing you can do. Okay. So, and a couple of those are going to be 2 of the 8x8s are going to be 8. That's, by the way, that's 8 contacts in 8 weeks. 2 of them are going to be phone calls. Generally for me, it was week number 4 and week number 8. Okay. And then the rest could be something else that was going out. But I'm going to put them into my 8x8. On the 9th touch, which is immediately after the 8th touch, guess what the 9th touch actually is? Decide. Here's what happened a lot. Josh, like I called Josh up that 8 week, finding answers to the phone, or he answers the text in today's world. He says, who? Chris? So that's either his polite way of saying, I don't want to do business with you after all. Or I've changed my mind. Or honestly, I forgot all about that.
or I forgot all about you, because I don't wanna buy a house now, because as soon as I said that to you, it turns out I owe the IRS $20,000, which was gonna be my down payment, so I got it. There's a whole host of reasons. I once put a lady on an 8x8, and when I called her on week 8, she giggled and she said, Chris, go ahead and take me off your list. And I said, well, can I ask you why? I'll be happy to do that. Can I ask you why? She goes, I'm a RE/MAX agent. She goes, I own several investment properties in there. I was just wanting to see what you're doing. She goes, I love how persistent you are. And I just want to save you the money. She goes, you're gonna make it. And she was an older lady and a very nice lady, no older name. It was a great compliment. So you don't know the actual reasons that they're going on or off. Can I ask you what difference does it make? All right, so you put them on your 8x8, then you decide if I like them, they're gonna go right into the 33 touch. And if they like me, they're gonna go into the 33 touch. If it's not gone anywhere, like Josh says, who, what, huh? I might put him back in the 12 direct. But if Josh says, listen, turns out I don't like you, or I want you to take me off your list or whatever, then I'm just gonna delete them. Goodbye. See ya. Because I'm gonna go meet more people. What are your ahas from this so far?
Mine would be that for every 100, you get half.
I thought it was higher.
On direct mail to a cold prospect, it's about a half. Okay,
So if I was so I did 50 for a year, so it was really. I should have given it to her.
probably not doing enough to find out. Like when people say, you know, I just can't seem to list any houses. Well, how many listing appointments you done? Well, I did one in February, I did one in April, and I did one 2 weeks ago. I'm like, you don't know if you're any good or not. You're just not doing it. You don't have enough sample size to know whether you're good. You don't have enough sample that 50, especially for the goal. You just don't. By the way, I can have some fun with this in just a second. We got time. I'll wrap up with that. But if you follow this formula, it works. Because then you're going to have deals that pop out, and then you're going to work those deals, and they're either going to go right back into here, or they're going to have deals that don't work out. Maybe you put them back. You get to decide where they go back into the cement mixer. Make sense? Let me read this to you out loud. This is from what he found back in 1999, 2004, when he was writing this book. He said that for every 12 people in your net contact database, which you mark yourself 33 times, you can reasonably expect a net 2 sales. We don't know that that's true anymore. In fact, we probably think it's at least double as far as how many people in your database. But and I was always confused. I was always like, Gary seems like a pretty smart guy. Instead of 12 to 2, why doesn't he just say 6 to 1? But what I found in my own world was it was pretty close. It was more like for every 20 people I had, it was like 2, but 1 was a referral and 1 was a buyer and seller of some sort.
With today's technology, have you seen the database change?
Yes, the ratios have definitely changed. The reason the ratios have definitely changed is because we are so inundated with advertising. So inundated. Look at this room. Look how many times you see Keller Williams type stuff. Like you go into a McDonald's, I've heard somebody say one time there's over 200 things you'll see in McDonald's once you're inside, reinforcing that you're in McDonald's. We're so inundated, that's why your emails aren't working. That's why your blanket texts aren't working in a TCPA friendly way. Don't spam people. That's why your phone calls aren't working.
I was gonna say, that's why people always say when it's something self-addressed, that's why that might work better than you think it would.
I only do something
Yeah.
because I don't even.
It's like, oh, somebody cares.
Right.
But name and cursive.
Jack, you can print them off for me, the labels, and then I'll just use those to write the address, and I don't use the labels.
So you guys, we can either continue to talk about the mindset around this cement mixer and how this works. We can maybe ask some, or answer some specific questions you have around it, or I can show you some math that makes a really great point. You know I love math, right? What do you guys want to hear?
Do the math.
One vote for math? Yeah. Okay. So let's have some fun. Let's say you find a neighborhood of, finding the right neighborhood to farm is a skill. We can do a whole lead gen lab on that. That's a skill in of itself. Like what's the turnover ratio? When was it built? What's the high school graduation rate going on in there? I mean, picking the right neighborhood to maximize your investment matters. But let's just say we find one that's 300 homes. We're gonna do a 300 home neighborhood. Okay? And we're gonna do that, we're gonna do a 12 direct, 12 times a year. So what's 300 times 12? Somebody's gonna have to be my calculator person.
Want it? $3,600.
$3,600, 3,600 postcards you're gonna send out that year, right? What's the average price of a postcard mailing right now? Stamp, card, everything.
The more you do, the cheaper it is. I don't know, I wasn't doing that.
Oh,
Did we say $1.60, $1.75, something along those lines? I didn't have that much money, so I discovered quickly that it was cheaper to go to Target and buy these little printers and then print my flyers. But I would print 2 of them on each sheet, then I would sit around and I would cut them in half, and then I would put them in an envelope, and then I would mail. So whatever it is, but
It's 77 cents per postcard to mail it through command. That includes the postage and everything.
okay,
77 cents.
so let's just say 80 cents. Can we say 80 cents? Okay, so what's 3,600 times 0.8?
2,880.
$2,880. How many are you excited that the bald guy up front is talking about spending $3,000 of your money? Sorry? Per year, right? And then we're gonna, let's throw in another $420, just because that makes it more of a number, right? So we're gonna say $3,300 a year, because maybe you're gonna host an ice cream function, or maybe you're gonna drop off somebody. See what we've done here? 3,300. Now, if it's true that we get about 0.5% or something along those lines of which one, so we're gonna get, what's 300 times 0.005? 1.5? Okay, so what's 1.5 times 12?
18.
18? Okay, we're gonna get 18 leads. Let's just say 9 of them go absolutely nowhere.
Actually, wait, how'd you get this 18 leads? I didn't.
1.5 leads per 300 times 12 months,
Oh, okay.
18 leads. Now, by the way, I think that'll mostly be backloaded. It'll mostly be back. It's gonna take 6 months for people to recognize what's going on. This is a whole art, right? So, but let's just say that half of them go nowhere, half of them go. The other 9 you're able to put into your 12, your 8x8, because they're contacting you now, and then your 33 touch, you start building a relationship with. And let's just say that all that works down to getting 2 closings after you've spent the year. We could even say 1 closing. What do you guys want to say? 1 closing or 2 closings?
Let's go 2, please.
2 closings? Okay. You feel strongly about this?
My
Okay.
stupidity, let's go with 2.
Okay. So let's just say this is an average Olathe neighborhood, and the average price is $320,000, and the average fee you're gonna earn is $9,500, let's just say. Okay? What's $9,500 times 2? 19,000? Okay. If anybody in here will accept my check for $3,300, so long as in 13 months I can come back to you and get a check from you for $19,000, would you make that deal? That's the deal you would be making with yourself.
Hopefully the leads that you get off of those two sales too.
Yeah, could be even less, because you're gonna do every open house in that neighborhood you could find, right? So, but let's just cut it in half. I'll make you the same deal. I'll give you a check, Josh, for $3,300, so much as in 13 months, I can come back and get $9,500. I'll do that all day, every day. What's the real problem here?
3,300.
The real problem is just doing it, because it's not even 3,300, it's like $300 a month.
Right, but for an agent that hasn't closed anything, that's hard. It's hard to talk yourself into spending
Yes.
$3,500.
Yes, but you opened a business, you opened a pizza restaurant. If you're going to say, listen, I can sell you all the cheese pizzas you want, but I just can't afford the pepperoni. How long are you gonna be in business? Let me give you a true story. I was broke when I started this thing, and I had no extra money, and I had to sell stuff to do. So I would live in open houses, I would knock on for sale by owners, which I hated. I would knock on expireds, which I hated, but I had to do it because this wasn't, I had no backup. This was it. And my wife, oftentimes through 38 and a half years of marriage, people say, why are you, like I have never cheated on my wife, I will never what?
And then why are you still married?
That's exactly, so, but like I am so loyal to my wife, and it all goes back to many reasons, but one of them was at 115th place or 119th place, I don't remember where I live now, it's down in Jinx, Oklahoma, in that little small 3-bedroom stone house. And I would come home with a commission check, and I would immediately put some aside for more marketing and all this other kind of fun stuff. But I'll never forget, it was the 3rd night in a row of macaroni and cheese and hamburger. The 3rd night in a row of macaroni and cheese and hamburger.
That's not a lot wrong with that.
Well, it's me, and so as soon as that was over, we gave thanks for that. As soon as it was over, my wife, my 8-year-old son, and I went into the living room. We turned on the TV. We watched whatever. I don't remember what that was, but we had an assembly line on the coffee table. The assembly line was folded stuff and labeled, and then we passed it over to Jake, who would put the stamp on. So basically, we had over $150 or $160 worth of mailing materials in the middle of the dinner table while we're passing around macaroni and cheese with hamburger for the 3rd day in a row. And the reason so many people won't do this is two. One is consistency. They can't concentrate on anything more than an hour, or today's world, 15 minutes. And two is they would rather have that Starbucks or that extra night out than invested in their future. And I just kept investing in it and investing in it, investing in it, investing in it. Now people call me lucky, and I want to punch them in the face. Right? So now when Marie asks me for anything, like it took me years to train her. You don't have to ask me. If you want something, go get it. Because how many spouses, she never said a word about all the stamps and the envelopes and the cards in the middle of the table. She just said, well, this is what he's doing.
Well, you married right.
I married right. Exactly. So this is the cement mixer of how you actually use your database. Go back and watch Wayne Janner's teaching of setting up your database last week on Lead Gen Labs, and then follow that up with this, because this is how you use it. Any questions, thoughts, or ahas? Luke?
So I have a question for everybody. Like, I just got my license yesterday. And I don't know, thank you. How valuable for you guys has like mailers been? Because I got a mailer from a realtor, and he was a friend of mine, and I didn't know he was a realtor. And so I called his number, and he told me he'd been sending these out for 3 years. And I said, how many people have called your number? It's like, you're the first. You know? So I'm just curious, how valuable has that been for you guys?
What was on the mailer?
It had like a picture, and it had, like 2 paragraphs of what he does. There was no data about like home prices in the area or anything like that. So it wasn't really a value add.
No call to action.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and by the way, if your mailers and your advertising are all about what you are and how what a wonderful person you are, how's that gonna work out? Right. This is a me society. Like, I found my niche because I was talking to people about something they wanted. Like, if you wanna farm a neighborhood, what is it that people in that neighborhood want? And by the way, most people move up 50% from where they are. So think about that for a second. If they're in a $200,000 neighborhood, which I'm not sure where those are in Johnson County anymore, but if they're in a $200,000 neighborhood, they want a $400,000.
400's one out of 600. Or 300, just, the 500.
But like, has anyone gotten leads off? It's like,
You can talk to my sister. You have to do it for more than 2 years. And then what happens is when one calls and they see your sign, then the next time you do the mailer, everybody would go, oh, that's the agent that's been mailing me for 3 years. So it's not quick feedback.
This is not a quick game. This is something, but how many of you are planning on making this a career? If you're gonna make it a career, when are you gonna start?
We've always put two items of value to them on the mailer, then like one statistic and then something about our business on the mailer. And I mailed a particular neighborhood and I got 4 leads off of it. So, and that's within a year's time. But
I started my mailings in January and I'm just doing it to my neighborhood, which like my neighbors already know me anyway. But now I have neighbors coming up to me, like I had a neighbor the other week and asked like, hey, we're doing our landscaping, like, what's gonna be the best curb appeal when we're ready to sell? And I was like, well, what are you guys looking at? Like, what are you thinking? And we had a really great discussion, but even when I'm on the walk with the boys now, they're always like, hey, Megan, I really liked your last newsletter, like, thanks for that.
so they view you as the go-to for advice because.
That one person did, and we were just on a walk. So, and like, it was just, I haven't met them before, but they were like, hey, Megan, can we ask you a quick question? Like, they were out in their front yard, we were chasing our boys, trying to keep up, and it was a great conversation. Yeah.
but it already sounds like they've kind of planted the seed of moving on from that neighborhood.
Yeah,
So that would go to an 8x8.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Well, and how do you plus this? Maybe you set up a neighborhood Facebook page
Already.
where you're the person that doesn't do it. Maybe you hire an ice cream truck. Maybe you write blog articles. Maybe you go to a local mom and pop ice cream store and you ask, hey, could I have some co-marketing? Like, I'll pay for all the marketing, but you supply the $1 off coupon. How many pizza shops would take you up on that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so figure out ways to become valuable to your neighborhood, not just send them stuff saying, I'm Chris Lengquist, and frankly, I'm pretty wonderful. Right? Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You'll know you've been doing it right when you're standing in a grocery store. I'll never forget the first time this happened and somebody tapped me on the back and says, are you that real estate guy? I said, yes, I am. Why do you ask? So anyway, I hope this has been valuable for you guys. We could go how to select a farm, how to make that farm as effective as possible with your different kinds of touches, your different kinds of branding, and what that particular farm would probably really benefit from, right? So, I mean, there's different things that you can do once you do this, but A, commit to building your database, watch that last week's video by Wayne, and then B, commit to actually doing something with your database.